Right now, we're about to go in the Chapel of Adam in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Chapel of Adam was originally a man-made cave that was created by hollowing out part of the hill of Mount Golgotha on which Jesus died. And right above the altar in this room is the Chapel of Calvary where the cross of Jesus stood. This room was probably created in 135 AD when the Roman Emperor Hadrian built on this site the pagan temple to the goddess Venus. 200 years later, the Christian Empress Helena approved the construction of a church here, and so her builders turned this room into a chapel. Now at that time, this room was called the Church of Golgotha. So why is this room now called the Chapel of Adam? Well, all 6 denominations who have custody in this church teach that something very special happened in this location. You see, the book of Genesis tells us that the first man on earth was Adam. And according to an ancient Jewish book called the Second Book of Adam, Adam was buried at this location. If that's true, it means that Jesus died directly over the grave of Adam. And if you look at the large mosaic just outside of this chapel, you can see a skull under the cross of Jesus. Every denomination in this church teaches that this is Adam's skull, hence the name, the Chapel of Adam. There's one more interesting thing about this room, and that's the glass window in the apse of this chapel. Inside this window, you can see a crack in the rock of Mount Golgotha. Many people believe that this crack was created at the moment that Jesus was crucified, because it says in Matthew 27:50 that when Jesus died, the earth shook and the rocks were split. And scientists have already determined that there was an earthquake near Jerusalem sometime between 25 and 35 AD, or in other words, the same period of time that Jesus died. Do you see these 2 benches on either side of the entrance of this chapel? At one time, instead of benches, there were 2 sarcophagi here. A sarcophagus is where someone is buried. So who was buried in these tombs? Here's the story. The Muslims captured Jerusalem in 637 AD. 4.5 centuries later, it was recaptured again by the Crusaders from Europe. Now, the man who led the first wave of Crusaders was Godfrey of Bouillon. 2 years later, Godfrey died, and his brother, Baldwin I, became the next monarch of Jerusalem. Both of these men wanted to be buried in this church, and so they were laid to rest right here, in the Chapel of Adam. The Muslims eventually took over again, and they removed the bodies of these 2 men and desecrated them in the 13th century. Later, in 1808, these 2 tombs were destroyed, but we have earlier drawings showing us what they looked like. Godfrey of Bouillon refused to call himself the King of Jerusalem, preferring only to be called the Defender of the Holy Sepulchre. And this is because Godfrey believed that the true King of Jerusalem was Jesus Christ.